Situated in the hills of a quiet Wyoming homestead sits a 10th century style Anglo-Saxon Mead hall that looks straight out of Beowulf. As striking as it is against the American plains, what's even more fascinating is the man who built it and why.
My name is Cyning Meadowcroft and I am from England.
Angelcynn Heall was built by hand by one man, and the structure is legal.
So in 2001 I started with the foundation, and luckily I just got grandfathered into the non-planning regulations in the county, because this would have been a nightmare to explain to anybody, let alone the time schedule.
Cyning has been building this for 20 years. He would finish one room at a time.
A true cruck is something, a natural cruck especially, is something that goes from the foundation to the apex uninterrupted. It's not a beam, it's not a truss. Everything sits upon it. The roof, the walls, everything. Hence the expression, the crux of the situation.
The design is true to ancient 10th century architecture, built as a natural cruck hall. Essentially what that means is the structure of the home is built on 8 full-length curved timbers that run from the ground floor to the top. And those timbers support everything. The crucks measure 33 feet top to bottom, which actually makes it the tallest natural cruck mead hall in existence. And it's in Wyoming.
The task was then to find the timber, and that was not easy. Because, believe it or not, the US oak forest, commercial forests, are as depleted as Europe, in fact worse in some ways.
Cyning handpicked oak trees in southern Illinois and had them trucked to Wyoming, where he lifted each massive crook on his own.
It was pretty hair-raising situation. My brother's a high-rise steel erector, and he wouldn't have entertained it. It was a big no-no what I was doing, pushing the limits to everything.
True to medieval joinery, there isn't a single nail in the entire structure. He used wooden pegs and custom mortise and tenon joints for every single piece of timber.
Yeah, it's a process for one person. 3,000 mortise and tenons and 6,000 wooden pegs is a lot. I mean, it's a lot.
Stepping inside, you'll see the heart of the house opens up to a soaring, true-to-form mead hall with a long dining table, a cozy lounge, and a massive stone hearth, whose chimney alone weighs 48 tons. Beyond this, the hall becomes a home, a hand-built kitchen and offices on the main level, private rooms and small apartments tucked into the second floor, and a third-floor loft with plenty of storage. The more I talked to Cyning and walked through his home, the more in awe I was at how massive a project this was, and realizing that I was talking to the man who made it happen. Every floor had its own personal touch with Anglo-Saxon carvings, cultural decorations, and runes. It's hard to explain, but being in a home where every square inch of what you see was handcrafted by the person who lives in it, it gave the home a completely different feel. It was personal and special and sacred. It was a space that was imbued with one man's spirit. Naturally, the magnitude of the project led me to wonder why, and Cyning's response was intriguing. To get to the bottom of this, my friend Adam and I hopped in a car and drove 7 hours through what I'm going to call the Dookie Plains of Wyoming. We drove across the southern half to a beautiful spot near Cheyenne where we met Cyning and his family.
I was born in Birmingham. That's where my father met my mother. Then we went to the West Country, out in the west part of Britain. And I was there till I was probably 19 when I left and went to London to pursue a career in handmade furniture. But then, things weren't going too well financially. The country was in, like it is right now, just super high inflation.
Cyning would come to America just to visit, but was intrigued by working on old homes in Massachusetts, which would stoke his passion for ancient construction and eventually led to him moving to the US permanently.
The first stage was when I came to Salem, Mass. I found it interesting getting involved in construction in a historical way. Whether it be looking at these old oak-framed pilgrim homes, or whether it be your Victorian federalistic brick houses, whatever. I found it interesting. I decided to come back, and my choice was Wyoming, and I checked it all out, along with, like I told you earlier, with Amtrak and a few other states, and did the whole internet thing and looked at all the statistics, and it fitted what I was looking for. which is freedom, basically. Freedom of expression, whether it be through a building or what you have to say. And so then I sat down in 1999, drawing up sketches of what I imagined to be a mead hall with some accommodation in it. And this is pretty much what it is. It was a big step, but I was absolutely gutted with what was going on in England. That was then, 25 years ago. It was the start in the late 80s, early 90s. It was the start of you shouldn't be proud of who you are. And that seemed very foreign to me. But people in the world have a lot to be proud of. And I, as an Englishman, would say we have a lot to be proud of.
When you walk into the main hall, the first thing you might notice is a mural of Alfred the Great. Born in 849 AD, he's considered one of the greatest kings of England for restoring education, strengthening laws, and battling the Danish Vikings.
You learn about Alfred the Great and what achievements he made, and hence his name, Alfred the Great. No other king has been honored that term by the people years after he was dead. Starting a nation like Alfred did by uniting all the 7 kingdoms. For me, the golden era, 9th century, is very important. And so, this cruck architecture is English, and it's very specific. And so for me to have pinpointed something that's very English and to construct it in such a way that it has the open barn atmosphere to it, but it has all the cell rooms of the home, is the idea in the late 90s I started conjuring up. It was a connection of combination between bringing back to life, England's roots. And so, yeah, it was a good idea to build a cruck hall honoring Alfred, the first king of England.
This entire home, 24 years of blood, sweat, and tears. It was all a love letter to English culture and history and Alfred the Great. But woven into that devotion is also a deep frustration with the England he left behind.
So it was very difficult to expand and live your dream, But then, things went south, with how politics was turning out. It was getting really rough over there. Nothing like it is today. It's really bad. But I could see the writing on the wall, and this globalism is destroying nations, and people desperately need these nations, because without them they have no meaning, and people want to have a sense of belonging. But yeah, if you homogenize the whole thing, you've taken the fun and the beauty out of the human race, Even brothers like their differences. In fact, they get very angry. I know my brother used to get very angry if there was any similarities between us. Everyone wants to have their own identity, But they don't want to be alone either. So that's where the sense of nationhood comes from. You beat the system by existing, by flourishing. And I wouldn't have had this in England. I'd probably be sitting in jail instead.
The irony of an English nationalist leaving England isn't lost on Kooning. I think he knows how it sounds. And as heartbreaking as it was to hear his reasons for leaving, I couldn't help but feel like he had figured something out. He had a beautiful family and land. And I found myself hoping that someday I can be as grounded and purposeful as Kooning is.
And so when I'm dead and buried, hopefully this is still around. And for people to enjoy and ask questions, why and how, like you are. And that's the essence of any culture. Why and how, and the intrigueness behind it all, and why it matters. And it's a trail of adventure, trying to rediscover and realizing the importance of all the achievements that they went through. A good saying of mine I always like to use, which is out of Beowulf, is "Gayeth Darworth Swar Heol Shall." And I think that's a good saying even for modern times, which just simply means fate will take its course.